Thanks everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we will focus more on how to create or provisioning the infrastructure by using Terraform and what are the infrastructure provisioning tools are available and what are the problem statement we will overcome by using the infrastructure provisioning tools, and we will see what is the infrastructure and how we can provisioning the infrastructure automated way. Okay. So before going to discuss this, if you haven't subscribed my channel, can you please subscribe my channel? Now let's see what is infrastructure. If we have a project, we want to deliver it to the customer, we need some infrastructure. Example, if you want to develop the code, if you want to test the code, if you want to build the code, we need servers. This servers is part of the infrastructure. So that is where if you want to deliver the project or product to the customer, we need the infrastructure. Then what is the infrastructure? The infrastructure means you need servers, we need some storage, then we need some kind of network to make a connectivity between servers or missions or other services which is needed. And then we need some user account, we need some user access or login, or you need some permissions, you need some data center, and then you need some security. Okay, so all these we can call it as a infrastructure. Okay, this infrastructure will be from on-premises or cloud, but nowadays all are using the infrastructure from the cloud because the cloud will be, we can use and we can pay for the hourly based. Okay, so that is where the infrastructure is two types. They are existing infrastructure is a new infrastructure. Okay, so if we can take any project, so based on the client requirement or customer requirement or based on our need, we can develop that project from the scratch or we can develop the project from the existing infrastructure. Sometimes we need to create that infrastructure from the scratch. We need to be develop the project and we need to deliver that project to the customer. But in some situation, we have already existing infrastructure, and by using that existing infrastructure, we can develop and we can build and we can deliver that product to the customer. Okay, so based on that requirement, we have to create a new infrastructure or we have to change the existing infrastructure and we can deliver that product to the customer. So that is what the infrastructure actually. Now let's see what are the problem statement it will overcome by using the infrastructure provisioning tools. Okay, so from now onwards, the infrastructure means so always the people will looking from the cloud. Okay, so if you take any cloud, they will be provided multiple services like networking or VPC, servers, EC2 or storage or scaling, load balancing, database and other Lambda. There are multiple services they will be provided. So if you want to provisioning those required resources or services, you need to be logged into the AWS, then you can connect to the AWS dashboard and we have to create the resources manually which is needed. Okay, so we have a cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, GCP, whatever it may be. If you want to create the services or resources manually, taking time or it is very slow to provisioning those resources. So that is where the first problem statement is provisioning the resources will be very slow. That means if you want to create more servers, it will be not creating manually. Okay, so example, if you want to create 50 servers, one load balancer, one auto scaling, this cannot be created parallelly and it will take more time actually. So, and even if you want to provisioning the parallelly all these resources, it is not possible by using manual approach. Okay, so that is where provisioning the resources or creating the resources or services which is needed for our project development, it is taking very slow and taking more time if we can provisioning them manually. So that is the first problem statement it will overcome. Then the second thing is reduce the manual errors. If we can go to the any organization, or if you can go to the any company, you are not just creating that resources, and you need to provisioning the multiple servers. It will be creating storage, networking, accounts, scaling, load balancing, and other things like this. So many components are required actually. If you cannot create just like a server, you cannot working on it. That is not right. So accordingly, so apart from that servers, we need to create so many components are required. Okay, so now if you want to create all of these things in the less time, definitely we will be doing some manual errors, right? So that is where, so if you want to provisioning the servers without manual errors, so we need some automation infrastructure provisioning tools. Using that, we can automate it, and even we can reduce the manual errors as well. Okay, so that is the second problem statement. And the third one is taking more time to provisioning the required resources. As I told, if you want to create that resources parallelly, so or if you want to create 10 resources, 15 resources, we cannot create them in the short time. It will take more time. So that is what the problem statement is. And as I told, we can create that multiple things or multiple components to provisioning or to develop the project. We need, load balancing is needed and scaling is needed actually. So to do that scaling manually is very difficult. Okay, example, we have a 2 servers are there. So the load is increased on the 2 servers. We need 2 more servers. So what we can do, we need to go to that AWS and we need to connect to the dashboard, and we can select that EC2 service, and we need to create and we need to attach it. So this is tedious actually. So scaling will be difficult. So automatic scaling will be very difficult to do the by using manual approach or manual process. Okay. And the next thing is, so we need to know at the end of the day, cloud is not a free. We have to pay an hourly based. So that is where it is a cost optimization also. It is very important. Whatever the things you are using, how many hours you are using, you need to pay. So by mistake, if you create a EC2 server with some other instance type, okay, so the cost will be vary. Example, if you want to create your EC2 instance with that M2X file large, instead of that, you have selected that, M5X large 16-bit, that time the cost will be vary. So that is where there is a chances of over provisioning. Instead of provisioning with that detailed, required configurations, required instance type, you have selected some instance type that will be taken the over provisioning. So this is the one of the problem statement. And the next thing is, as I told, if you want to provisioning the resources, say example, if you can go to any organization, you cannot just creating the server. You need to be do for the some multiple things actually. So say example, if you want to automate something, you need servers, you need storage, you need scaling, you need DB. So all these things will be provisioning is very difficult to the parallel approach. Okay, so that is where provisioning the resources parallel will be very difficult. Okay, so the next thing is difficult to manage the resource dependencies. Example, say we need to create some EC2 instances. Some dependencies are there. Or example, we need to create that one load balancer. So the load balancer will be depending on the EC2 servers. So once we can create that load balancer, we need to attach that backend servers, which is called EC2 servers. So if we cannot create that EC2 servers, if we can try to create that load balancer, we cannot able to add the backend EC2 instance. Okay, like this, there are multiple dependencies are there. So if you want to manage those dependencies manually will be difficult. So that is where we need some provisioning automatically. So using those provisioning tool, we can able to automate. And the next thing is enhance the security. So sometimes, as I told, you cannot just create the servers, you need to do some configuration also. So there we can see some configuration errors. One of the primary security risks with the Terraform is misconfiguration in the infrastructure code. So misconfigurations can lead to the vulnerabilities and expose the critical resources to the unauthorized access or compromised or hacked. So that is where the common misconfiguration includes weak access control, open network ports, and incorrect permission settings. All those things we can able to do it from the cloud actually. So, so if any cloud resources provisioning, if we can do some these, mistakes or misconfigurations that leads to the compromised or it will be hacked actually. So that is where on the cloud resources we can use that secret management. It relies on access keys and secret keys to authenticate with the cloud providers and provisioning the resources actually. Example, if you want to connect to the AWS, we can use that secret manager and we can store that access key and secret keys and we can authenticate to the cloud and we can provisioning to the resources which is needed. So storing these credentials in securely can also lead to the security vulnerabilities such as unauthorized access and data breaches. So handling access credentials securely in the crucial to overall security of the Terraform deployments. So using that state security, which is called state file, we are going to use it and we can able to securely maintain that configuration section. So that is where state file is the one of the important file we will discuss in the going forward. So Terraform uses that state file to keep track of the resources it has created or modified or it has deleted. And the state file consisting of even sensitive information as well, such as what is the resource ID, what is the metadata, what are the secrets, and how many resources are provisioning, and how you are provisioning, how are deleting, and all those things should be maintaining the state file actually. Okay, these all those things will be doing by the permissions management actually, where we can use it. Okay, so and apart from that, let's see how to automate this process. So what are the problem statements we have seen? How we are going to automate this entire process? Is there any tools we can use it? What is the process we can use it? What is the approach we can use it? We will see it. So automating means how we can create that, how we can provisioning the servers automated, how we can manage that infrastructure automated in the different environments. If you are working with the one project, we cannot maintain one environment. There are multiple environments are there. Example, dev environment, build environment, test environment, QA. Okay, there are multiple environments are there. So here we discussed what are the problem statement, how we can automate all the problem statement. Apart from that, how to automate the provisioning, how to manage the infrastructure with the different servers, and what is the approach we can use it. Okay, so to automate this infrastructure provisioning and managing the infrastructure in the different environments, there we can use desired state and you can use the actual state. Okay, so what is the desired state? It means what we need. Example, I need 50 servers, or I need one load balancer, or I need some network. This is my desired state. And what is the actual state, or what is the consistent state? So whatever is actually there, do we really have that 50 servers in AWS, Azure, or GCP? Do we really needed those things? That is called actual state. So how are you going to automate them? Okay, example, I need 10 servers. How are you going to automate? I need one load balancer. How are you going to automate? So what we will do is we will use automation in that we will tell to automation what is our desired state. Like example, I need 15 servers, I need load balancer, I want networking, which is called VPC, or I want some storage, or I want some scaling. So you tell what do you want. Okay. Whereas, how to create it and how to make sure your desired state is actually available. This is what the automation will be taken care of. Whatever it may be. Suppose, say example, I want, two load balancers. So you tell two load balancer I want, then whereas how to create it and how to make sure your desired state will be available, and that will be taken care actually. Okay, so that's what the desired state will be taken care. So in this strategy, so this is one of the strategy we are using. In this strategy, where you have to tell the desired state and automation will take care of achieving the actual state. Okay. So example, I want to provisioning that Kubernetes cluster, then you can tell to your desired state, how many master nodes are there, how many worker nodes are there. You can tell to desired state. So this is the strategy you need to tell. Whereas you have to tell your desired state like I need, two master nodes and four worker nodes. Then your automation will be taken care of achieving your requirement. So I don't have to go to that any cloud like AWS or GCP Azure web page, and I can click to the multiple options for provisioning that Terraform or Terraform cluster, sorry, Kubernetes cluster or storage or network, or need to do for the some scaling or scale down. I will just tell how many Kubernetes clusters are needed, example, or how many servers you need, you know you need to tell to the automation, then the automation should be take care of provisioning them. Okay, so whenever we will use this concept or strategy, how do you tell the desired state? Okay, so that we will do it through the some configuration file. Example, you need 10 servers, how you are going to tell that 10 servers to desired state? So example, you are the developer, you need to be write, some configuration file. In that configuration file, you need to tell I need 10 EC2 servers, and I need one network, and I need one load balancer, and I need, one scaling. You need to write some syntax actually. Okay, configuration file as a syntax. So you should have to know what is the syntax to write the configuration file, which is technically calling as a coding. Okay, so Terraform has some coding. You should have to write that coding in the configuration file. That configuration file we can give it to the input as a desired state. Okay, so you tell the desired state, then the tool will read it. Okay, so tool here is we can use any tool based on our requirement. The tool will read it, then it will go to the cloud. Okay, so if you can use any cloud, it will go to the cloud, it will be taken care. Okay, and that means it will be provisioning the infrastructure, whatever it is needed. So this is the process, this is the approach we are using actually. Okay, so here the main strategy is, so the developer will write some code or syntax through the configuration file, which is called your desired state. Then the tool will read it. Okay, then it will connect to that cloud and it will be provisioning actually. Okay, so now we are focusing on infrastructure, so that we we have to use the tool specific for the infrastructure automation, and the code that you tell should have the detailed information about that infrastructure, like servers, and about that storage, about the network, about the access part, and about the load balancing, about the scaling, whatever it is related to the infrastructure. So automate the process of provisioning and managing this infrastructure of different platforms or different environments. We can use approach which is called desired state and actual state. So infrastructure as a code, which we can use to automate all the things which is needed actually. Example, if you can use this infrastructure automation, if someone modified some code, you don't worry actually because everything is tracked. So I told just before there is a state file is there that will be tracked. You can't go to the AWS or Azure or GCP and you can keep finding. Okay, who modified, what modified, when modified. You no need to keep finding it. But if we have this, configuration file in GitHub or any source code management tool, I can clearly tell what was modified and what was modification, who is modified, when was modified, why it is modified. All these details will tell to that configuration file. Then after that we can able to push that code to that GitHub repository. There we can able to see who modified, who pushed the code, what he modified, at what time he modified, how many lines he modified. Everything should be trackable actually. So that is where if we want to use this configuration file, it is very easily we can repeatable actually, because if I create a syntax or code, if I can develop that configuration file which we will have all the configuration for some infrastructure, I can use it wherever I want. Okay, or I can give it to the some other teams and everyone can use it. So that is where you can develop it once and you can use it in the multiple times. Example, we have a multiple scrum teams are there, so they need this infrastructure provisioning. They can use the same configuration file and they are going to modify that and they are going to reuse it actually. Okay, so that is where it is easily testable. Even example, if we can take, if you want to test this easily, we can test it. Example, if I have to create some infrastructure for some client requirement, some QA requirement or production requirement, I can't create it in the client environment actually, and then I can test it whether it is my infra is created properly or whether it is working properly or not. That testing I cannot do in his client requirement, client environment actually. Instead of this, you can create in your dev environment or dev server or build server and do the test. If everything is working as we expected, then same thing we can deploy it into the client environment or production environment. So that is how infrastructure as a code is very useful and the people are adapted actually. Okay. So as of now, so I'm talking about only about the concept of infrastructure as a code. And now, how do you actually achieve? That is where specific tools are there. Okay. So depending upon the cloud, there are different tools are there. Like if you use AWS, it is already has built-in service called cloud infrastructure, cloud formation template. And whether for Azure, we have some built-in service which is called ARM template. Out of all these, one of the popular tool we have in the market, which is called Terraform. Okay, so Terraform is the infrastructure as a code, so which we can use to build, change, and versioning the infrastructure and resources safely and effectively. So even Terraform is the open source tool that manages that on-premises or cloud resources, which and all we need to do it. Example, if you want to work for the AWS or if you want to work for that Azure, if you want to work or provisioning the services from the GCP, so Terraform will be supporting for the multi-cloud provisioning. Okay, so that is where other similar tools for the Terraform is CloudFormation template, which is only for AWS, and ARM templates, which is only for Azure. But the Terraform will be supporting for multi-cloud provisioning the services actually. So in the next class, we will see what is Terraform, how we can automate this provisioning the tools, all those things we will see it actually. Okay, so up to now we have seen what is the infrastructure and what and all available in the infrastructure, how we can automate the infrastructure provisioning, and what are the problem statement it will overcome, and what is the strategy which we can use to automate, and how exactly we can use it. What are the different infrastructure provisioning tools are there, and what is the Terraform will. Okay, so we'll go through this, and if any doubts or questions, can you please post in the comments. So in the next class, we will see what is the Terraform and what are the fundamentals of Terraform and how we are going to use the Terraform as an infrastructure provisioning. And after that, we will see uh, how to install the Terraform, and we can try to execute what and all services we can provision it. Okay, so thanks for watching.